No, you're good. I don't think I can squeeze in a motion till 9. No, you're good.
Actually, we'll be able to share.
I think we can share the Christmas.
I'm going to call to order the governing board meeting of the St. Johns River Water Management District. Today is December 9th, 2025, and it is 10 a.m. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good morning. I'm going to start with the roll call. Miriam Galby White.
Here.
Cole Oliver.
Present.
Chris Peterson. Here. Ryan Atwood. Doug Bornick. Doug Burnett. Here, sir. Ron House. Janet Price. My name is Rob Bradley. We have a full house. We have completed and attendance, and obviously that constitutes a quorum. We are going to start with item 1, which is, as is tradition, Ms. Hudson announcing the employee awards. You're recognized, Ms. Hudson.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Robin Hudson, Human Resources Director. First, we'd like to recognize our Employee Month. Adam, if you'd please join Mike. Congratulations to Adam Boykin, the December Employee of the Month. Adam is an agricultural partnership representative and is recognized for his exceptional service, professionalism, and meaningful contributions to the Agricultural Assistance Program and the Consumptive Use Permitting Program. Adam exemplifies the district's core values in everything he does. He fosters trust through open communication, integrity, and consistent follow-through. His ability to cultivate partnerships is rooted in genuine engagement, listening to producers' needs, and helping them align their operations with the district's missions. Adam brings dedication, initiative, and a positive attitude to his work each day. Congratulations, Adam. A 20-year service award to Philip Benson, Technical Program Manager in the Bureau of Water Resource Information. Philip oversees the Water Quality Data Program, including managing both the water quality field teams as well as the data quality assurance team. His role includes working closely with his team to ensure continued collection of high-quality data that are quality assured and utilizing those data to assist staff and the public. Over the past year, an important part of Philip's work included the implementation of water quality sampling regimen at the Black Creek Water Resource Development Project to ensure that permit requirements were met. This involved working closely with integral partners, external agencies, and procuring and managing contracted sampling efforts. Philip's breadth of knowledge of monitoring networks is an asset, and his understanding of the value of data integrity is vital to district programs. Thank you, Philip, for 20 years of dedicated service to the district. Hoping for 25. A 20-year service award to Christy Willoughby, Regulatory Information Specialist in the Office of Records and Regulatory Support. Christy's responsibilities include preparing and sending out receipt and decision noticing to interested parties, applicants, government entities, and weekly e-notice subscribers. She is responsible for the quality assurance of mail, permits, TSRs, and permit applications. She is also part of our regulatory customer service hotline, as well as the water restriction hotline, taking daily calls and offering assistance to the public. Christy is a valuable member of our team, and she consistently provides excellent quality service to our internal and external customers. She continually volunteers to help with district events, such as attending off-site outreach efforts. We greatly appreciate your contributions to the district, and we congratulate you on 20 years of service. A retirement award for David Eunice, Regulatory Scientist 4 in the Division of Regulatory Services. David is a valued member of the Regulatory Compliance Team, managing advanced environmental compliance cases. For more than 3 decades, David has brought regulatory expertise to both permit review and compliance work in Central Florida. He is widely respected across the district, other agencies, and the public for his level-headed approach and his thoughtful guidance on complex cases. David's commitment and loyalty have made him an essential part of our district team. David, sincerely thank you for your dedication to the district and the public we serve, and we wish you the very best in your retirement. A retirement award for Margaret Vietti, Project Administrator in the Division of Infrastructure and Land Resources. Margaret's work is integral to the success of the Division of Infrastructure and Land Resources. Margaret meets monthly with the project managers and reviews all aspects of their projects, including schedules, budgets, status updates, forward planning, and closeout. Her exceptional knowledge of project management software is a great benefit to staff and help keeps project on schedule and on budget. She is also knowledgeable of the annual budget process, administrative systems, and financial software. During her tenure, Margaret earned a master's degree in public administration, contributed to the implementation of the Adaptive Project Management Reporting System, received multiple awards of excellence, as well as in supervision and numerous other accomplishments. Margaret's work ethic is superior. She is also kind, compassionate, patient, and calm under pressure. Margaret, thank you for your dedicated service to the district, and congratulations on your retirement. And our final award today is a Meritorious Service Award for Mark Van Heeden, Supervising Professional Engineer in the Bureau of District Projects and Construction. Mark is being recognized with a Meritorious Service Award for Supervisory Excellence in Project Management and Delivery. Mark managed the Crane Creek M1 Canal Flow Restoration Project through design, permitting, multi-jurisdictional coordination, construction, and now the beginning of operation of the regionally significant Water Resource Development Project. This is one of the largest and most complex projects undertaken by the district to date. It provides not only substantial nutrient load reduction to the IRL, but also significant alternative water supply to the St. Johns River. Mark's outstanding project management approach helped to keep this $23 million project on time and on budget, despite the many challenges encountered through the design and construction, including impacts from Hurricane Milton. Arguably, the most impressive example of Mark's exceptional management ability leading to completion of the project was his unwavering persistence driving the completion of 21 permits as well as 10 real estate agreements. Mark's appreciable technical ability and personal attributes are a reflection of the district's mission and values. Congratulations, Mark.
We sure are blessed to have so many talented people working for the state and working for the district. Congratulations, David and Margaret, on a great career, and thank you all for the service that was recognized today. All right, item 2 is Mr. Miller giving us the hydrologic conditions report. You're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the Governing Board. I'm Tim Miller, Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Water Resource Information. presenting the December hydrologic conditions report representing data from the month of November. Beginning first with rainfall, precipitation in November was minimal for most areas across the district, and while November is historically our driest month, this month was drier than usual. As you can see on the map, only parts of Brevard, Volusia, and Seminole counties received more than an inch of rain. Outside of that, rainfall was sparse. Some areas in Duval and other northern counties recorded no rain at all, which is a rare occurrence in Florida. Here are those monthly rain data displayed as averages across counties, along with the associated monthly rain data table. The average total across the district was nearly 1.8 inches below the district-wide monthly average of 2.06 inches. All 18 counties were below normal in November, with 8 counties averaging less than 1/10 of an inch of rainfall. Countywide average rainfall totals range from a high of 1.23 inches for Seminole County to a low of just 1/100 of an inch for both Duval and Clay counties. The rain data table shown here is available each month on our website. Next, in reviewing rainfall over the past 12 months, the district-wide annual rainfall total is 4.94 inches below the annual average of just over 51 inches. Rainfall distribution on an annual scale has been higher in Volusia, northern Brevard, and portions of southern counties through the year, while we see that areas to the west and northwest have received less. 3 counties are above normal, including Volusia, Seminole, and Brevard counties. But of the 15 counties below their 12-month rainfall average, 6 counties were below their annual averages by more than 10 inches. And of those, Baker County was more than 13 inches below its annual average. Countywide totals range from the lowest value of 37.09 inches for Bradford County to the highest value of 55.28 inches for Volusia County. As we're discussing annual rainfall in areas which are recording deficits from the annual average, here is the latest drought monitor map. Updated each week, this is the most recently published U.S. Drought Monitor assessment with data from December 2nd. With recent rains, there may be an adjustment in the next update, which will be available later this week. While much of the eastern portion of the district is not currently classified as being in drought, the western boundary has areas classified as abnormally dry, and our northwest counties were classified as higher levels of drought, all of which bear monitoring as we continue into our dry season. And per the NOAA Climate Prediction Center, mild La Nina conditions are present, and they do increase our chances for a cooler and drier fall and winter. Fortunately, with cooler conditions, that will lower the evapotranspiration rates, which are at their seasonally lowest rates during November and December. The recent National Weather Service short-term precipitation forecast was for near normal rainfall amounts, and we did receive some welcomed rains over the weekend. But the 3-month precipitation forecast indicates a higher chance for less than normal rainfall. And there is some degree of uncertainty to that, so we'll continue to monitor that as well. Outside our district, you can see varying degrees of drought across the state, ranging from exceptional drought in the northern panhandle to moderate and severe drought along the western portion of the peninsula. Here's the Keach-Byram Drought Index map for Florida, which is updated daily, and these values are from yesterday. Designed specifically to assess wildfire potential, this tool is more sensitive to recent rainfall. And with the rains received over the weekend, index values have decreased, but we see that several counties in the northwest portion of the district show some risk for wildfires and are nearing a KBDI value of 500. As a result of higher risk levels in previous days, county-enacted burn bans remain in place for Baker, Bradford, and Alachua counties. Moving on to surface flows, here are the monthly mean surface flows as compared to historical statistics through November. Surface flows at the majority of sites on the St. Johns River were in the high range for this time of year, while flows in the St. Mary's River to the north were in the low range, and the Ocklawaha River to the west dropped into the very low range. Other changes observed include the Wekiva River near Sanford Station and the St. Johns River near Geneva at Lake Harney Station, both which increased into the very high range. These increases in flow percentiles reflect the extreme rains in late October, which had influence into November. But in general, flows have remained on trend with rainfall amounts. In the next series of slides, we'll review the status of water levels at selected long-term lake sites, and lake levels had varying amounts of decreases through the month. I want to note that typically we display data for water levels at Lake Weir. However, this month, Lake Weir is not included. As part of our migration to the new database, we're reviewing some data anomalies and the incorporation of historic USGS records. And after addressing those items, we'll continue to include Lake Weir water level data in the future. So moving first to Lake Brooklyn, the water level decreased by 1 foot from the previous month, remaining above its average level for November. Water level at Lake Winnimisset had a decrease of 0.3 of a foot and remains above the average level for this time of year. Lake Apopka's level had a slight decrease from the previous month and was above its average level, but remained below regulation schedule. Water level in Blue Cypress Lake had a decrease of 0.2 of a foot in November. Levels at the end of the month were below regulation schedule, but above the average water level. Across the upper Floridan aquifer, water levels primarily recorded decreases, and that was seen at about 85% of sites, largely coinciding with the distribution of rainfall in the past months. As indicated on the map by the red triangles, 24 sites recorded decreases of 10 or more percentile points. Areas in the high range, indicated in blue, comprise a small portion of the district in the northern Brevard County area, and the majority of the district remains in the normal range for this time of year. However, areas of low and very low conditions persisted in Duval and expanded in portions of neighboring counties. And while the majority of the district remains in the normal range regarding groundwater levels, areas of low levels will continue to be monitored as we move into our drier months. Next, in looking at the district-wide index value for aquifer conditions, we see the upper Floridan aquifer well index value at the end of November was 39, which is slightly lower than last month, but remaining in the normal range relative to historical water levels observed in November. While the value is in the normal range, recent dry conditions for parts of the district, along with a forecast of a lower than normal rainfall in coming months, reinforce the importance of water conservation for Floridians. Being aware of and observing the water restriction schedule, which just switched to 1 day per week from now through March, is a great way for residents to be contributors to conservation efforts. In the next series of slides, I review changes in flow at selected spring sites with long-term monitoring, and as you'll see, changes in flow were mixed. The monthly mean for flow in Silver Springs decreased 24 cubic feet per second from the previous monthly mean. Flow remains in the low range for this time of year, reflective of low rains recorded in this spring shed in recent months. At Blue Spring, site maintenance by the USGS mid-month enabled data collection to begin again. And due to the nature of the repair required, it's likely the gap in the data that you see there will remain. But the monthly mean for flows increased 7 cubic feet per second, and these provisional data indicate that flows have been near the top of the normal range. At Rock Springs, flow had a slight increase from the previous monthly mean and is in the normal range. A slight increase in flow was also observed in the monthly mean at Wekiwa Springs. Flow continues to be in the normal range for this time of year. The well plugging program completed the abandonment of 4 wells in November with an estimated potential of more than 250,000 gallons per day of flow conserved, and since November 2020, the program has conserved an estimated potential flow of nearly 94.5 million gallons of water per day. To provide further context for the abandoned artesian well plugging program, here are additional data relating to well plugging needs and efforts related to this program. In the map on the left, the blue shading represents areas in the district where the water pressure in the confined Floridan aquifer is sufficient to cause wells to flow at land surface, illustrating where there is a potential for artesian wells to flow if wells were open or if there were issues with well head or well casing. Based on the map, we would expect that the majority of wells drilled in Brevard and Indian River counties would flow at land surface, while in contrast, Baker County in the northwest has very little potential for a well to flow at land surface. And while Duval and Nassau counties have significant areas where there is potential for flow, areas that are largely rural have fewer wells, as opposed to the counties in the south where populated areas often have irrigation wells. Brevard County experienced high population growth in the 50s through the 70s, where home construction was often accompanied with well installation, many of which are experiencing failure due to age. In addition, the depth to the artesian aquifer is less in the south than the north, so well installation in areas like Brevard County is more common than northern counties where installation costs were higher due to depth. Due to these reasons, the potential need is not the same throughout the district. And the map on the right shows the shaded area with potential artesian flow overlaid by the location of wells abandoned since November 2020 as part of the district well abandonment program. And you'll note how well the spatial pattern of abandoned wells is within the boundary of discharge areas of the Floridan aquifer. And for the reasons discussed earlier, southern counties have been and continue to be the primary location of abandonment assistance needs. Lastly, here's the fire dashboard provided by Land Management, updated for November. The only activity in November was a small wildfire in Indian River County. And as discussed last month, November is in our dormant season window, and it's common for prescribed burns to not be performed during this month. With drought and abnormally dry conditions present in the north and western counties, and burn bans in place for several counties, there are challenges for prescribed fire planning, but there are still areas with opportunity to apply fire safely, and staff are taking advantage of those and continue to monitor conditions for the ability to burn in December. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, members, we're going to move to item 3, which is the consent agenda. That would be items 13 through 17. Does anyone want to pull an item 13 to 17 for discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Item 4, it's a joint participation agreement with Volusia County, and Ms. Theus is going to give us a presentation on the matter, and then we will consider an item for potential vote. You're recognized.
Good morning, Chair Bradley, members of the Governing Board, Sheila Theus, Director of Real Estate Services. I'll be presenting Agenda Item 4. Staff is requesting approval to join Volusia County in the acquisition of an agricultural conservation easement over 212.83 acres. The purpose of the maps displayed on this slide is to orient you with the location of the subject property. Looking to the map on the left, the proposed easement will be located on the property outlined in red. The easement will add to an existing conservation corridor comprised of lands encumbered by proprietary conservation easements or those owned by the district or the county. The map to the right is a closer view of the easement property. The shaded represents the wetland communities found on the property according to the Florida Natural Areas Inventory. The easement will border Lake Ashby, which is subject to minimum flows and levels established by the district. This slide is intended to give you a brief overview of the agricultural conservation easements. These easements are specifically designed to preserve working agricultural lands and rural landscapes. The main policy goals are to prevent conversion of agricultural land to development, maintain land in agricultural or rural use, and protect water, natural resources, and open space in the context of agricultural operations. These easements also allow the landowner to preserve the natural beauty and ecological importance of their property while continuing agricultural operations like farming and ranching. Agricultural conservation easements may be held by federal, state, and local government entities. In comparison, proprietary conservation easements established under 704.06 Florida statutes are typically broader and more conservation focused. Their intent is to protect natural, scenic, and environmentally significant lands, including wetlands, natural habitats, and cultural resources. Agricultural activities may be included in proprietary conservation easements if those activities are consistent with the conservation goals of the easement. Agricultural conservation easements, I already said that, I will move on, sorry. The photos of the subject property are displayed on the right side of this slide and above the table describing the details of the joint participation agreement with Volusia County. The easement negotiated for this acquisition is modeled after the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, or FDAC's Rural and Family Lands Protection Program standard easement, and incorporate the prohibited uses or restrictions described in Section 704.06 of Florida statutes for conservation easements. The agricultural and silviculture activities authorized under this easement are consistent with the districts and counties' shared conservation goals to protect water resources and natural systems habitat. Additionally, these easements prohibit the application of biosolids and soil amendments derived from biosolids and require the landowner to follow the best management practices adopted by FDACs. The land will be managed by the property owners under a land management plan approved by the district and county and will be monitored by staff on an annual basis. And finally, the district and the county retained a right of first refusal should the landowner seek to sell the remaining fee interest. The Volusia County Council approved the joint participation agreement last Tuesday on December 2nd. Staff request approval reflected on this slide and further described in the governing board memo for agenda item 4. This concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, you've heard the presentation, members. Are there any questions? There's a requested action. Would anybody wish to make a motion to approve agenda item 4?
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve agenda item 4. Is there any discussion on the matter?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Is there a representative from Volusia County, Sheila?
There is not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, we have the motion and the second before us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Theus. Item 5 is another item for board consideration. It's a partial release and amendment of a regulatory CE that would be offered in exchange for substitute mitigation. It's located in Brevard County. Ms. Wenzel.
Good morning. I'm Christine Wenzel. I'm one of your regulatory managers in the Division of Regulatory Services, and I am pleased to be here to present agenda item number 5 this morning, which is the regulatory conservation easement release in exchange for a project known as Seasons in the Sun. The Seasons in the Sun parcel is a previously permitted yet undeveloped parcel located in the city of Titusville. It's south of Hammock Trail, east of Turpentine Road, north of Eagle Point Subdivision, and west of North Carpenter Road in Brevard County. The Seasons in the Sun parcel is a previously permitted, I already said that. In 2004, the prior landowner received an environmental resource permit which authorized construction of a project known as Seasons in the Sun. The project was not fully constructed, and the current landowner, Summerfields West LLC, has applied to modify that permit. The previous property owner recorded a regulatory conservation easement that preserved a total of 22.24 acres of wetlands and uplands as a condition of that permit. The proposed exchange is located on site in close proximity to the partial release area as indicated on the slide. The proposed release area is 5.949 acres of uplands located along the western fringe of the existing conservation easement.
The current landowner has a development plan that will remove work within over 5 acres of wetlands that were previously permitted to be impacted. To minimize the impacts to the wetlands and maintain a viable project, the current property owner is requesting the release of some of the developable uplands within the conservation easement. In exchange for the release of approximately 5.9 acres of uplands, the requester proposes to preserve 6.6 acres of wetlands and 1.5 acres of uplands that are contiguous with the remainder of the conservation easement. The exchange area includes most of the wetlands that were previously proposed to be impacted under the previous permit. Configuration of the exchange parcel relative to the remaining conservation easement will improve the contiguity and the ecological value of the existing conservation easement as a whole. Preservation of the exchange parcel results in 0.922 functional gain units. The functional loss associated with removal of the conservation easement over the release area was calculated to be approximately 0.892 functional gain units. The functional gain of the proposed exchange exceeds that of the partial release by 0.03 functional gain units. It's important to note that if this release of conservation easement is approved by the governing board today, a separate environmental resource permit will be required. That environmental resource permit application has been received and is currently in-house under review. Staff recommends the board approve and authorize our executive director to execute the release request and exchange for substitute mitigation regarding seasons in the sun. And I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. I think we have some public comment, but before we get to that, are there any questions? Yes, you recognize Ryan.
I'm just curious on the process of when someone comes to us and they request these. Do we send a biologist out to look at these properties? What do we do? What's our response, I guess?
We receive the request, and then we schedule a site visit with the requester and their team. We go out there and we look at the ecological value of the release area, and we also look at the ecological value of the exchange area. We try to do those in the same visit or in close proximity, and assess the functional value using our UMAM assessment tool. And one of the first things we look for is there a way to reduce the extent of the request coming in? Can we modify the extent of that release request area? In this particular case, these are uplands. And so as a result of this proposal, we will be avoiding impacts to over 5 acres of wetlands. And so that is a very positive approach from what we and regulatory are looking at. Our biologist goes out there, we do that functional assessment, and then we go through all of the, I'll call it paperwork, that we need to get it before you all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, are there any public comments?
Yes, sir, we have two.
All right,
The first is Ms. Ruth Amato.
all right. Ms. Amato, you're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to begin with one simple point. In perpetuity, it means forever. If this conservation easement can be vacated whenever it becomes inconvenient, then it's not perpetual. Without standing behind what the contract means when it's written, it's not worth the paper that it's written on. St. Johns River Water Management District exists to protect our natural resources, support Florida's growth by ensuring sustainable use of Florida's waters. The district achieves this through 4 core values: water quality, water supply, flood protection, and protecting natural systems. The Atlantic Coastal Ridge, the recharge and wetland system adjacent to it support all 4 missions. Destroying the system removes aquifer recharge, water storage, natural flotation, and flood mitigation. North Brevard and Titusville are already struggling to meet water demands. Weakening our recharge system will further reduce water availability, degrade water quality, and increase flooding. These impacts are not theoretical, they're predictable. On December 3rd, Florida Department of Environmental and Protection issued a press release quoting Governor DeSantis. Florida is the leader in water resource protection, and we will continue to act as responsible stewards. Mike Register, executive director of the district, stated, Florida has demonstrated real leadership in securing resilient water supply for our future. A $50 million investment reflects this commitment to sustainable alternative water supplies. Yet I would respectfully point out that if our natural recharge systems were truly protected, we wouldn't need costly alternative supplies like potable water, commonly known as toilet to tap. Wetland, floodplains, and sandy ridge aquifers already provide free recharge, free filtration, and free storage if we protect them. Vacating a conservation easement in this environmentally critical system directly contradicts the district's statutory purpose and the commitment made both by the governor and the district's leadership. This is how Florida lost the Everglades. One parcel at a time until the system failed and the taxpayers were left with an enormous bill. The mitigation land being offered is wetlands. It likely would not have been developed anyways. It is not equivalent to losing highly valuable ridge recharge land. If this development is to occur, more conservation land should be required, not released. This board has an opportunity today to uphold your mission, protect our aquifer, act in the interest of Florida residents rather than developers' profit. Titusville and North Brevard already suffer from water issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stan Johnston.
All right, Mr. Johnston.
My name is this working? My name is Stan Johnston, and I had some handouts that I've given to you, and I've also sent a letter to Mr. Register about something else I'm going to speak about. So this is what I've sent to you. This is a business card of me. I'm a registered professional engineer, been since 1976. That's about 49 years. In 1980, I was registered professional land surveyor, and I'm still a surveyor and a registered professional engineer. So I've been here for quite some time, since 1970, and I've seen some things. I've done numerous permitting through St. Johns River Water Management District. And I'm wearing this shirt. This shirt has nothing to do with this presentation. That'll be another presentation. That's something else. But in my card, I mentioned here, let me read this to you. It says, I'm opposing laws repeatedly violated by Titusville. Now, in this case is that I'm questioning whether you're violating some laws in what Ruth Amato is talking about. Because what I have seen in Brevard County, I've seen numerous conservation lands dedicated for perpetuity. What happened to them? They just disappear. The conservation requirements, and they go ahead and develop the property. I don't know how it happens, but it appears to me to be illegal. That's something for the attorneys to, but it just appears to me, and it also appears to Ms. Amato. She didn't tell you something. I believe her family has been here before this became a state of Florida. Is that correct? She says yes. She's been here a long time. She lives right near the Salt Lake area, and I want you to listen to her, but because she knows what she's talking about, and there's problems with this, and this issue about perpetuity and aquifer recharge, aquifer storage, and so forth, has to do with what's going on here and what she said about, taking a little piece away at a time, just like what's happened to the Everglades. So I'd like you to give it due consideration. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Register.
All right, that concludes our public comments on this particular agenda item. There is a requested action. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to consider agenda item 5? Going once, going twice? All right, we're moving to item number 6. Yes.
I understand that motion's gone and that thing is gone. Because I've been in the applicant's shoes and I've also been in this board's shoes, our staff may need some direction as what do they do next? Because
All right.
that's
And-
going to be a conversation, not for any other reason, because
I agree, and why don't we, when we get to governing board comments, everybody collect whatever is on their mind about agenda item number 5 or any other agenda item, and we'll discuss it at that point in time. If there's something anybody wants to say, or whatever.
I'm okay with that. I just thought
Thank you.
someone's going, whoa, dude, now what?
I hear you.
And our staff will be saying that too. Now,
I-
that's not politically the right way to say, whoa, dude, but that's Ron speak.
No, it's a legal term. All right, agenda item number 6. We have a partial release of a regulatory C in exchange for substitute mitigation, St. Johns County. Ms. Wenzel, you are recognized.
Thank you. I am here to present agenda item number 6 as well, which is a regulatory conservation easement release and exchange request for St. John's Golf and Country Club and St. John's Commons Commercial. St. John's Golf and Country Club and St. John's Commons off-site mitigation areas are undeveloped parcels that are located on the north side of County Road 210, west of its intersection with Interstate 95 in northern St. Johns County. I'll give you a second to look at that. In 2001 and 2002, the district received regulatory conservation easements under conditions of 2 environmental resource permits associated with construction of St. John's Golf and Country Club and St. John's Common Commercial. The conservation easements preserved 39.07 acres of wetlands and 0.15 acres of uplands and wetlands, respectively. The proposed exchange parcel is a land donation of wetlands and uplands that are an inholding of 12 Mile Swamp. This graphic shows the location of the release areas, which are adjacent to existing commercial development, County Road 210, and wetlands under conservation easement. The release areas total 4.28 acres and include 4.13 acres of mixed forested wetlands and 0.15 acres of mixed forested uplands. The release areas are in moderate ecological condition. The reason for the release request is to build a medical facility which will support an existing urgent care facility located to the east of the release parcels. The requester evaluated 5 sites for this project, with the locations depicted as stars on the slide. Based on factors such as location, access, zoning, and on-site resources, the site along County Road 210, identified by the blue star, was ultimately selected. In exchange for the release of 4.28 acres of wetlands and uplands, the requester proposes to donate 20.87 acres of wetlands and uplands that are currently in inholding of district lands known as 12 Mile Swamp. The exchange parcel offers 15.02 acres of mixed forested and hydric pine plantation wetlands, as well as 5.85 acres of upland pine plantation. These areas will be incorporated into the district's management plan for 12 Mile Swamp, which includes prescribed burns and monitoring for exotic and nuisance species. As part of this agreement, the district will also receive an endorsement fee of approximately $74,000 for perpetual management, and approximately 5 acres of ingress and egress easements currently held by other entities will be released or vacated. Donation of the exchange parcel results in an ecological lift of 1.6 functional gain units, which is 3 times the ecological value of the partial release areas. It's important to note that the release of conservation easement, if it's approved by the governing board today, a separate ERP will be needed for future development, and the partial release areas proposed for the medical facility and any additional wetland mitigation needed for that development will be provided through that environmental resource permit process. Staff recommends the board approve and authorize the executive director to execute and release the request in exchange for substitute mitigation regarding St. John's Golf and Country Club and St. John's Commons Commercial. And I am available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Wenzel before we get, do we have? No. All right, no public comments. All right, we're on item 6. Any questions? All right, on item 6, there is a motion to approve and a second to approve the requested action. Is there any discussion before we vote? Yes, you're Doug?
Yeah, and talking about this and the previous one, ever since I've been coming to these board meetings since 1978, I've encouraged the executive director to horse trade the best he can or she can to increase what we do have in the way of preserving our district. Citrus land becomes available after freezes. The land that's forever not been available all of a sudden now because of disease and freezes is available. If we can horse trade and up our game, so to speak, and increase our environmental value, I'm all for it. I think you got to do that with limited funds, and as fast as this state is exploding in growth, anywhere we can increase it, we should. And I think that this accomplishes that. And I think the staff in every one of these looks to that very carefully. And I always support this staff 100% and Mike's leadership, and I think this follows that footprint very well.
Go ahead. Cool.
Yeah, I would tag on to
Thank
Doug's
you.
comments. And the distinction for this one for me as opposed to the other was the increase in the ecological gain that was presented by the applicant. I didn't feel that the other one, it was just de minimis gain. So this one, I think the staff said it was 3 times the ecological gain. So just explaining my vote to those out there that are watching for future applicants that come in on these types of projects.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody else have any discussion on the matter? Okay. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Galby White.
Yes.
Oliver.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Atwood.
Yes.
Bornick.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes.
House.
Yes.
Price. Yes. And I will vote yes. It's approved unanimously. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I could ask Ms. Preston to address under item 18, I just want to confirm that the lack of action on item 5 does not result in anything other than just simply it not occurring?
That's correct.
Okay, so status quo prevails.
Correct.
We're the same right now as we were before the meeting started
Yes,
on that land.
on that land.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we don't need to address that under 18. All right. Item 7. Mr. Brockmeyer, we have a agreement with Indian River County to facilitate coastal wetland restoration projects for consideration by the board, and you are recognized to explain it.
Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the board. I'm Ron Brockmeyer, an environmental scientist in the Bureau of Environmental Sciences. Today I am presenting for your consideration an agreement with Indian River County to facilitate and accelerate coastal wetland and shoreline restoration projects. Our goal for this item is to enter into an umbrella agreement with Indian River County that will facilitate the utilization of both district and county resources more efficiently design, permit, and implement these sorts of projects. We are working on similar agreements with other coastal counties. Over the next few slides, I will illustrate the recent progress we've made with 3 projects that have benefited from technological improvements. We see the umbrella agreement as an improvement in the administration of future projects. These 2 projects are on federally owned land at Merritt Island and utilize state, district, and federal funds to flatten nearly 10 miles of dike to wetland elevation, restoring about 50 acres of wetland and enhancing 2,300 acres of existing wetland that are open to and open water by reconnecting them to the IRL. These projects will restore more fully functional wetlands that will increase fish and wildlife habitat, sequester and store more nutrients and carbon, and are more resilient to storms. The work originally planned for both of these projects was completed last fiscal year. Aerial imagery, we're going to look at this side, is used to quantify the acres of wetland restored, returned to wetland elevation. The photo on the right illustrates rapid revegetation of areas now at wetland elevations. An important advancement in these projects is the increased use of more accurate GPS technology, which we now require on grading equipment. This instrumentation allows contractors to place the dozer blade at the target elevation and achieve finished grades in fewer passes, as we can see on the right. The instruments also allow the contractor to collect elevation data for an as-built drawing as the project progressed, rather than waiting until the work was completed. This advancement has resulted in the completing of restoration work ahead of schedule and at less than 1/3 the recent estimated cost and less than the historic cost of similar projects. The green lines on the left image show some of the previously restored areas on Banana Creek, with the blue line indicating the dike removed in the current project. The hatching on the right image is the wetland area that has been reconnected to the Indian River Lagoon by the project. After consulting with the funding agencies for these projects, it was determined that the cost saving mentioned previously could be used to expand the original project scope. After identifying additional areas to be restored with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NASA approvals, 14 additional miles of dike have been permitted for restoration. We should be able to complete the additional work with the remaining funds this fiscal year. The last project is the recently acquired Sternstein property. With state and district funding, this dragline ditch project, restoration project, was recently completed. In October of 2022, the board approved the acquisition of this property, outlined in blue, in partnership with Volusia County and the city of Oak Hill with the intent of restoring the dragline ditched wetlands. Through collaboration, the project was expanded to include adjacent impacted wetlands that were part of Canaveral National Seashore. Work began in early June and was completed in mid-September. The final assessment of the wetland acreage restored is still pending. Partnerships are key to these types of projects. We in coastal counties have been discussing formalizing partnerships in this type of umbrella agreement. The one before you today is with Indian River County. Specific project scopes under this umbrella will define the cost, responsibilities, and timelines for each project and provide the ability to use each entity's contracts. If approved today, we anticipate bringing similar agreements with additional counties for your consideration. This completes my presentation, and the recommended action is on the screen. I'm happy to address your questions.
All right. Does anybody have any? Yes, you're recognized, Doug. I got some questions whenever.
Yeah, I have a comment. Can you go back to slide 6?
Which one?
There you are. 6. There it is. 80 to 120 years ago, when steamships were on their way back north from dropping off tourists as far south as Miami and points south of this area, on their way back north, they would stop by docks along the Indian River, and you can see on the photograph there, there's old remnant citrus groves, and the farmers would roll out with oxen carts, loads of grapefruit and oranges, and they'd load those steamers up, and they'd head back north full of Indian River fruit. But that's an old historical comment, but there's still a few of those docks left, believe it or not, in Indian River County. But with that, Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
All right. Before we get to that, I think there may be a couple of questions. You're recognized first to that, and then we'll go back to that at one point, Doug. Thank you.
I'm highly supportive of this work, but my question is, were these originally mosquito ditches back in the day? Is that what the purpose of the ditches and whatnot there?
They were. We consult regularly with the mosquito control districts. In Volusia County, the majority of the dragline ditch work we had done previously was under contract with the mosquito control folks. We had them on site here probably 2 or 3 times to discuss the plans. And the restoration rarely fills all of the ditch, and they have not had additional breeding from any of the sites we've done previously.
All right, if we could move the screen back to the proposed action. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was about to say, I mean, I've seen us doing, taking a bunch of these mosquito ditches throughout the Indian River Lagoon and putting them back to where God intended the land to be used for, and I agree with that. I just, was it bad science back then, or was it just the best we could do? I mean, I'm just curious why we did that to even start with.
It is.
I say we.
Yeah, it is effective
yeah.
mosquito control. It works
Human race.
well, and the recognition of the value of wetlands just wasn't there when they did most of this work, and it's been subsequent that the value has been recognized, shall we say, and that has started the effort to restore many of these areas.
I think it's good work. Thank you. And if you don't have a second, I'd second that.
Okay, we're still doing questions. Still doing questions, and then we will get to that in a second. You're recognized.
Thank you. So this is an umbrella agreement, and that you reference underlying projects, and are they all of this same type of wetland restoration along these old mosquito dishes, or do they go beyond that into other types of projects?
The scope for the MOA basically discusses that we've done probably 4 major types of wetland restoration, working with impoundment dikes, working with dragline ditches, occasionally doing dredge spoil removal projects. And then there's the whole issue of shoreline stabilization and the habitat that living shorelines provide to the system. Those are the primary ones that we would include, but there will be a specific project agreement for each of the projects under the umbrella that will lay out the scope and the responsibilities.
So that doesn't have to come back to the board, though. So really what we're trying to do is just streamline everything. So
yes.
that you guys can go ahead and move forward with these
right.
things.
The agreement has most of the contract language that would go in an agreement already agreed to ahead of time, so that basically the scope is the thing that would be unique to each of the projects. And it would depend on the size of the project as to whether it would come back to the board.
Okay.
Okay, what is the size of the project that would have it come back to the board under the proposal?
The executive director has approval to approve projects up to 200,000, and anything over that would come back to the board.
And you mentioned that there were other similar arrangements that are being discussed with other potential partners?
Currently, a similar agreement is being reviewed by Brevard County, and we have looked at potentially expanding, in my mind, Volusia County, maybe Duval County, St. Johns County, maybe even some cities if they have
Big enough.
Big enough and have impacted wetlands in their boundaries.
Do we have anything similar on the books right now in terms of, or is this a new concept?
We don't have anything similar as far as I know, but we have had. I did a lot of the work in the Indian River Lagoon in reconnecting impoundments, and we had annually renewable work order-based contracts with the local mosquito control districts to install culverts and to reintegrate those wetlands back into the lagoon. So that's the model that I brought forward to push this idea of umbrella agreement.
You're recognized, Doug.
Yeah, I've got maps in my office, really old historical maps that show the state of Florida, and from about Cape Canaveral down to Jupiter, they have a line around that area, the coastal area. It just says mosquito coast, don't. Just don't go. And yeah, these are old pirate maps, if you will. And I can remember when I was a little boy, my father would take us up fishing on the Indian River in the Banana River, an offshoot of the Indian River Lagoon. And when we would come in to get ready for dinner, my dad would say, "Now take your pillowcases." And we put it over our head, and he would tape it just to where our nose was out. And we would have long sleeves. We were told to put our hands inside the long sleeve and to all congregate by the door. And the diner was just across the street. And he would look for traffic, and he goes, "Don't stop running till you're inside the door." And we would run and get in the door fast as we can. And even with that, the people, the patrons inside would yell, "Shut the door, shut the door," because a cloud of mosquitoes were following us. There's a reason it was called the Mosquito Coast. These mosquito impoundments were a part of that management, and they dot the whole Indian River Lagoon down to Jupiter. And as you know, we're reconnecting it all the way on down. They're being connected by South Florida Water Management District and St. John's anywhere and however we can. They're important ecological benefits to the lagoon. So, but there was a reason that they did that, because it was just clouds and clouds of mosquitoes in that region. So I've got a question. As you level these, are you replanting on top of those? Are you replanting mangroves, or is there a planting program, or do they just naturally revegetate?
Typically, we do not plant. The dragline ditched areas are fairly small, and they're in a mosaic of wetland that provides propagules and vegetative growth that covers those surfaces pretty quickly. Typically, we see, and dike removal projects are similar. There's a wetland on the interior. We leave a vegetated fringe, and within a few months, you already see the vegetation starting to come in, and by year 2.5, 3, it's probably 70 or 80% vegetated. It's really remarkable how quickly the areas revegetate.
Yeah, I've just noted in Indian River, there's a few islands that we've taken away the Australian pines down, and they're still as scarified as the day that they are removed, unfortunately. And I was thinking maybe I'd love to go take some mangroves and coconuts over there and just see how they do, you know. I was just curious because I've seen it kind of sit there for a long time and on these islands.
Yeah, the surfaces we restore to are down at wetland elevation. So most of the spoil piles, the spoil islands in Indian River are above what we would consider a salt marsh or a coastal wetland elevation.
Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you for this concept. I find it very attractive, and thank you for the work you're doing on this to get us to this point. What I see is this is a sort of a new approach, and which is, I think it's something that has a lot of merit. And it looks like it's something that we may repeat. And so when you do it once, it probably is going to become the standard, which is fine. What I would like to do is put this on next month's agenda, and before consideration of this one, have a discussion of sort of a bigger picture of what these memorandums look like and sort of the details of them, kind of getting to Janet's point about, you know, what comes before the board, what doesn't, that sort of thing. Just dig a little deeper on what the agreements look like, and then we can consider this one, and then future ones probably would just be on the consent agenda, quite frankly, because it would be a model at that point. So if we could proceed in that manner, and then revisit this in January, unless there's something absolutely pending on this before January. There is not. All right. Then does anybody have an objection to moving forward in that manner?
Offer a motion to table if that would be the procedure.
We don't need to. We could just do as described. Ron, you're recognized.
Just so it's not part of the public record, send the secret fishing maps where the fishing holes are for Doug and Chris and Cole and everybody
Pirate
else wants
maps,
to
I
fish.
think.
There are some good ones.
Some pirate maps. If we could proceed in that manner, seeing no objection from the board. All right, great. Thank you. Good work. All right. Item 8 is the strategic plan. Got the big dog coming to the mic.
I'm not going to bark like Georgia.
Yeah.
Been enough of that going on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mike Register, Executive Director. Pleasure to come before you this morning to talk about our strategic plan for 26 through 30. In addition to just being good business practice for us to have a strategic plan, Florida statutes also require that we develop one for at least a future 5-year period. Within our district, we look from a planning standpoint kind of through 2 lenses or 2 frameworks at the district geographically. For water supply planning, there on the left, we have our regional water supply planning regions, and those are set up based upon, you know, kind of water use areas, population centers, and also where we need to coordinate with other sister districts in order to do effective water supply planning in those areas. So we look at that from the water supply planning perspective because, you know, the groundwater and all that doesn't really respect surface water boundaries, and so we have those set up to do effective water supply planning. For the other 3 core missions, water quality, natural systems, flood protection, those are more surface water basin oriented, and so that's where we've talked about many times in the past where we've divided us up into the 4 strategic planning basins shown there on the right so that we can address specific items within each of those planning basins. The plan organization, there are certain things that are district-wide, that it doesn't really matter which regional water supply planning they're in, doesn't matter which strategic planning basin they may be in. It's things that we want to accomplish throughout the whole district. So those are kind of highlighted within the first part, and those are organized by core mission. Then we go into the regional priorities where we do go by the strategic planning basins and try to address things that we have identified as concerns and potential solutions within each of those basins, some of which are common and some of which are specific to the planning basin. And then finally, we get into some of the district fundamental business practices, some of the things that we'll get into in the back office and some other things that we do. So water supplies, first core mission that we're going to look at overall. Obviously, mentioned about the regional water supply plans. One of our goals within here is to develop and implement those regional water supply plans, along with the associated minimum flows and levels, the models that are used to evaluate for both of those plans and those levels. And then we also want to really make a push in this plan to push water conservation and through both stakeholder engagement, education campaigns, pushing Florida Water Star. So we really want to make a concentrated effort through our communications group to push and increase water conservation, because every gallon saved is a gallon that you don't have to come up with for future use through some of these expensive projects. We also want to continue the very successful abandoned artesian well program. And then finally, we'll focus on some of those expensive regional water supply development projects that I'll talk about here. And everybody, I think, is aware of most of them, especially the Black Creek project, which I know Dale is going to give a fabulous update on here in just a little bit. And so everybody's aware of that. That project in itself takes care of all the water supply planning needs within our side of that North Florida planning region. So our side of the border, we really kind of have those needs taken care of and the resources protected with that. And it actually even provides a little bit of vent over to some of the Swanee River Water Management District and some of the MFLs that they're trying to address collectively with us and DEP in their area. Taylor Creek Reservoir Project, that is in our Central Florida Water Initiative area to provide water to meet future needs within there. So it's protective of the Wekiwa system, Wekiwa, to protect it and meet the future needs is kind of what that's designed to do. And then we have the Water First North Florida, which we're going to talk a little bit about next, I think. Which basically takes care of the rest of our North Florida planning region by doing a project that not only handles our side of the line and the impacts that we have into the Swanee River Water Management District and their resources, but also will provide enough water so that their agricultural industry, which is the primary driver in water supply in their area, to continue to be able to grow and flourish. Water quality, one of the big things, we need to know what the water quality is. We need to monitor it so that we can know where there are issues, where we need to develop projects. So we want to maintain our water quality and our hydrology monitoring networks. We want to effectively operate our water quality lab that does a lot of our sampling so that we know, what the status of these water bodies are. And then we want to continue the work of analyzing and sharing the accurate water quality data and the trends so that we can use that information, like I said before, to determine, where do we have potential issues? Where are we seeing improvements? Why are we seeing those improvements? Why are we seeing, the issues, and what can we do to make them all improvements? Natural systems, we want to continue to pursue acquisitions that give us optimal land management boundaries. So we have our land acquisition kind of list that Sheila monitors and maintains and looks for ways that we can get properties that fit into that, along with our critical wetlands list that identifies properties that not only that we want to obtain and add to our portfolio, but also it has provided a really great list for other governments, other local municipalities, and even some mitigation seekers to be able to identify projects that have high value that can get purchased and put into conservation through means other than us doing that. And that's part we want to continue to pursue partnerships. And then we want to make sure that we've evaluated all of these properties to make sure that resource-based recreation is available to the public, so the public can use its lands to the fullest extent possible while still meeting the ecological goals that we have for each of these properties. Flood protection, We want to continue to operate and maintain our structural ones that we have in the Ocklawaha system and in the upper river basin. We also want to renovate and replace some of these. We've taken a couple of items to board already to where we're going through the renovation and refurbishment and of some of these. We've also implemented a process to coordinate with local, state, and federal partners to minimize damage after flood events. So we're trying to get together in each of the big areas and develop those contacts, develop those work groups so that we meet before the hurricane season. We know who to talk to during and after events, and then we have wrap-ups after that too. And of course, we're always looking to preserve and restore floodplains through acquisition, as I mentioned in the previous slide. So now on to the regional priorities, where we're going by strategic planning basin. First one is the lower St. John's planning basin. And for that one, you can see the basin priorities that we've set up there. Within those priorities, one of the things, and you'll see it in each of these strategic planning basins, is we are doing feasibility studies to look at what projects are available to address these basin priorities. That's been kicked off. I think we're anticipating the results in October of this year. Sorry, not this year. We're almost to 26, to October of 26. And then the basin plans will be updated, and those will feed into the strategic plan for next year with a list of projects that we can work toward getting to construction ready, so that when money becomes available, we're able to spring into action and continue to move the needle on some of these basin priorities. The Ocklawaha River one, here's the basin priorities for that. We also are doing a feasibility study for this, for the water quality. We want to continue the rough fish harvesting and operating the Palatka flowway. We also mentioned before about our flood management structures. We're working on not only doing some of that refurbishment, but we're also doing an evaluation of the system itself, which should be complete in about in 29, so that we can look for opportunities to increase capacity and increase our ability to be able to provide flood management. We also want to continue our restoration efforts in these floodplains and marshes, and continue our restoration there in Apopka. In the middle St. John's River Basin, again, feasibility study to determine what projects are out there with the same time frame. But we're already getting started on stuff to improve water quality within there. We have the Lake Jessup nutrient removal project that is well underway to getting there, so that we'll have a method of removing water from the water, removing nutrients from the water column. We're also looking, one of the things we've identified in a lot of these water bodies is we've handled the diet part of it, where we've reduced the nutrients coming into it, but the exercise part still needs work, much like me. And so we're looking for ways to deal with those legacy loadings. And so we have projects in there. We recently got $15 million to look at stuff in Lake Jessup to see if we can implement some lanthanum treatments in order to bind that phosphorus in place so it doesn't keep getting re-released from the sediments into the water column. We also want to continue monitoring SAV within this area and continue the rough fish harvesting. As far as protecting outstanding Florida springs, there's 5 of them in the district located within this basin. We want to continue our septic sewer upgrades, look for stormwater runoff opportunities, and continue our focus on improving the water quality, as well as making sure that they meet their minimum flows and levels. And for flood protection, we'll continue to focus on getting floodplains and coordinate with other groups on potential flooding issues within these areas. The Indian River Lagoon, this is one that's an upper St. John's River Basin. This is one that's a little different in that we have completed the feasibility study, and it identified 30 projects and local to medium size that we are working on developing further so that they can be ready and look for partners that can get those done. Also, we completed the Crane Creek project within this area to help with water quality. C10 is still in the planning phases that will have a major impact on the Indian River Lagoon and also work to help rehydrate the river. We want to continue our seagrass research and evaluate the distribution of seagrass seeds so that we can understand, what does it take to make sure that when the conditions are right, these seagrass beds can repopulate and be resilient, and what projects can we do to increase that resiliency, increase that ability for them not only to respond and recover, but also stay resilient during the bad times. Within the upper basin, we want to look at options that we can operate and adaptively manage the Upper St. Johns River Basin project. We're working on, there are some areas that are too dry that we need to make a little wetter, but we don't want to make it wetter for some of our neighbors and partners. So we're working on how can we do that? How can we move forward cooperatively with our adjacent landowners so that we can accomplish our ecological goals on our side without impacting the ability for them to utilize their land for the purposes that they're using it for now. We're going to continue with the biosolids investigations that DEP is funding so that we better understand not only how they're potentially affecting those water bodies, but also what can be done as far as remediation where there has been potential over-application in some of the regions, so that if they are in fact affecting them, what can we do to kind of turn back the clock on those. And then if we move to fundamental business process, the natural resource and assessment and restoration, that's all a bunch of words that mean the people that work on making sure that we get all the water quality data, we get all the sampling, we get all the hydrologic monitoring, the modeling that's done to support all of our programs. All of that is done kind of in the back office. And then our regulatory programs, they are kind of the stalwart first line of protection for the environment, and making sure that not only is there no reduction in ecological value of wetlands out there, that stays consistent, but also that the projects that are being built don't cause or contribute to any on-site or off-site flooding. And so that is key for the environmental resource permitting program. And then we also have our consumptive use program that ensures that those are not going to have any kind of adverse impact to our water resources, while still enabling us to meet the incredible demands from our economy and the growth that we have seen. Communications and outreach, we're going to, like I said, push some campaigns toward water conservation, but also increase education of people about the work that we do and how they can contribute, how they can partner with us, how they can help to accomplish the goals that we're trying to do within our core missions, so that they are better aware of what we do and why it's so important. Obviously, we can't do anything without money, so the financial planning and management group is very important, and they're going to be in for some stuff that I'm going to talk about in a minute with the next two bullets. One, staff resource management. We've worked really hard on working through the developing the retention and recruitment of staff, and I think that's been very successful. We've seen some good increases. One of the things that we asked periodically of staff is, hey, would you recommend us to a friend, family member to work here? And that percentage of people that say yes, or highly yes, is increased to the highest level, 90-something% now in this last year. So I feel like we're doing a good job there. We're continuing to work on training our supervisors in the supervision part of their job, and that's an initiative that we tried to implement. We've got a little bit of a gap between those that are approaching retirement and those that are under 5 years, and so we really want to develop that middle management group. So we've picked out the superstars, and we're trying to get them through some really quick training to develop their skill set so that they can be the future leaders identified here at the district. As far as information technology, we just are in the middle of completing an assessment of our IT systems, and it has some recommendations that are in here for some modernization of our IT systems. We've kind of been a little slack on getting some upgrades and upgrading to new systems. Our financial package, and this is where they're going to have some work coming into them over the next few years, is actually one of, I think we're one of only 7 companies that still uses the financial package that we use to manage that. And so it's pretty critical that we start immediately in getting that upgraded to something more modernized. But also our e-permitting system, our e-reg system, our procurement, and our document management systems. Having all of those looked at with recommendations for how to improve them is going to put us set up for the future so that we can be better integrated, more efficient, and be able to incorporate AI more easily into each of the areas when those opportunities become available. So that IT system is one of our bigger internal back office projects that you're going to see over the next couple of years in trying to get that implemented and done. And with that, I'd take any questions, but the recommendation is that you approve the St. John's Water Management District 26-2030 plan. I think we do have some public comment, but I'm happy to take any questions before that.
Okay, before we get to public comment, do we have any questions? Yes, you're recognized.
Mike's presentation was great, no problem. It would be intellectually curious to see the other districts' strategic plans also, because we could actually learn some of the things we're doing that they're not, and vice versa possibly. Not that we need to make it an agenda item, it'd just be something that would be good to do possibly.
If I could respond.
Yes, of course.
So actually, got great idea, great minds think alike. We actually did look at the other district strategic plans whenever we were kind of developing our new format and working toward this. And what we tried to do was take the best kind of each of those and put it into what we felt is obviously the best one within the state. And so we've done that to make it a readable, understandable, usable plan that people can take and get a clear understanding of where the district's going over the next 5 years, and then also have it be used collaboratively with the basin plans so that you can turn to those basin plans for more details on the projects that will be implemented as a part of that strategic plan. And once the feasibility studies are completed, once we are able to finalize a little bit more some of the information about those projects, it'll come as a complete set where you have the strategic plan that shows you where we want to go and how we want to get there. You know, the basin plans that give a little bit more detail on how we are, the resources in those areas and how we're going to get there, and then a list of projects that are hopefully construction shelf ready or permitting ready, so that when money and funds become available, we can implement those projects easily and quickly.
Mr. Legislator, it's a great presentation. I really think the strategic plan it's super important to us and everything that we do. Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest perhaps to have a workshop on this. Even we can add it to our board meeting, but in a relaxed environment to discuss this and discuss options and really how we can take our district to the next level. That's just a suggestion.
If I could on that.
Sure.
So the plan on actually doing that is we have the plan, that kind of outlines the big picture stuff and how we're moving forward. As these feasibility studies get completed, we plan to come back to the board with workshops on each of the strategic planning areas. The first one is going to be the Indian River Lagoon Upper Basin project, because that feasibility study is already being completed. So probably in the May timeframe, is that when we were looking to come back for that? And then within a couple of months after that, we'd come, and then every other month we would come with another one with a workshop within those groups. And then we would take all the information from that and kind of feed it back into the strategic plan for next year when we do the update. So that's our our plan for the year as far as how we're going to gather both public and board input for all of that, but happy to schedule another one to go through it in a lot more detail.
Just a like 1 hour workshop off of our board meeting that we can discuss. So what's the schedule? What our other districts are doing? What's the future for us? How do we? I know you and I discussed. A lot of people are on drop. What does it look like? How are you going to recruit people? Which is such a difficult task. So it's just an idea, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. And I think this 2026 is going to be the year of sort of piggybacking on your comments and this strategic plan. I think that this will be the year that we really, I think, want to do a review of where we are and where we want the ship headed, not just for the next year, but in the next 3 to 4 years. You got to be careful not to go too far out there because, times change and things change and priorities change. But I know that that's certainly something that we're all interested in. That's the general consensus and feedback I feel from the board, that we want to just, make sure. I think everybody's pleased with where we are, but we want to make sure that we're hitting all the marks and doing everything we need to be doing to fulfill, the duties that we've been given by the statute and by our appointments. You're recognized, Doug.
Yeah, for the last 40 years, I've attended district meetings at our 2 other bigger districts to the south of us because of citrus being grown in 19 different counties. And I can tell you that most districts envy what we have here, what we're doing here. A lot of projects to the south of us in the other districts are caught in a quagmire of legal issues and such, and they have a lot on the table. We turn dirt, we get things done. And in my humble opinion, we're the envy of water management in this state. This staff does an exceptional job, in my opinion, and I've seen the days from Sonny Vigera to today, and I can tell you that when a project's approved by this board, this staff gets it done and on time and on budget for 99% of what we're doing. So you all can look. I don't need to look. I know what we're doing is spot on. This staff's doing a great job. I've witnessed it from other counties and other districts. I've always been proud of that. When I go down to South Florida, where I was raised in Palm Beach County, the guys go, how the hell do you guys get so much done? You're done already with those projects. It's just because we don't bite off more than we can chew, and when we do it right. But go ahead and look. I mean, I'm not opposed to looking and workshopping, but I know that's Mr. House's favorite word when he got on our board, to workshop it. I think what we're doing is really, really good.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Sure. Yes, of course.
Doug, we are doing great. I mean, our staff are amazing. But also recently, I have had opportunity to work with South Florida, and I can tell you they are amazing. So, I mean, it's great that everybody does amazing work. We just want to continue with the amazing work, but we can always get better. I don't believe any organization that doesn't need improvements, doesn't need to think outside of the box. How are all the rules that are coming about impact us, especially staffing? That's more than anything that it concerns me. Mr. Register knows that we talk about it all the time. Where do we find them? Where do we get the engineers and the scientists? How do we plan? I mean, we have leadership that the next 5 years, they're all retiring. So I don't see that plan yet. So that workshop for us is critical to give direction that we like to see that. So the fact that we are awesome, Mr. Register, you have heard me say that often. So, and you are awesome. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, in the words of Tina Turner, we're simply the best.
All right, I like it. Does anybody else have any comments at this time?
Such a love fest.
So, you know, I always enjoy listening to people talk about leadership and what they, like a Nick Saban or a Bill Belichick or some of these, the old Bill Belichick, not whatever is happening right now in North Carolina, and not just football, but in all walks of, in all manner of things in organizations. And one of the things, and I say what I'm about to say to bring together the comments we just heard, because there's so much truth in what both of my colleagues just said. With each of those excellent organizations, they are always proud of themselves and excited about the things that have occurred, but also constantly realizing that complacency is the enemy of greatness, of accomplishing things. And if you don't have that hunger and that desire to constantly look at yourself within, how can we be better, then you will, it was that desire and that hunger that got you to where you were in the first place, right? And so none of these discussions that I've heard either today or anything, just to make sure that everybody understands, anything that comes out of my mouth is coming from a place of very much appreciation and pride in the work that you do, Mike, and the work that the team does, and the work that this district is doing. It's not from a place of concern that we are not striving for excellence or that we're not achieving a lot of good things. But one has to always do those things in order to maintain levels of success, and I think it's, our job as the board to always have those expectations and maintain what I think is and continues to be a great communication with Mike and his team, and I think that's the core of making sure this happens, and we need to continue that. A couple of things that were mentioned today that are of concern to me, and I look forward to talking about this in 2026, and I would like to have it on the agenda, is, like this financial system that you're describing, Mike, you and I have talked about this before. I don't think we can even fix it anymore because they don't have people that are around that, deal with this analog system. And I would like to see what the plan is, because that has to end. And that's a part of a bigger IT picture, I understand, but that to me is sort of mission critical. Particularly, we have so much money moving in and out of this district with the state, and I think that's not going to stop. I think it's going to, and people like the cut of our jib, and they like the work we do, to Doug's point. So we're entrusted to handle a lot of these projects, okay? Because they know that we're the ones that can execute and get it done. But with that comes great responsibility to make sure that our financial systems are supportive of these dollars moving in and out and done in a particular way. The other thing, and this is something that Mike has correctly identified, and I see this through all areas of state government, quite frankly. And we could go on for hours about why we find ourselves in this situation in state government. Doesn't matter. It's the situation we find ourselves in. That is that there's a hollowed middle in a lot of state agencies right now. And the district has not been immune from that. And, you know, you have this gap between these folks who are experts, and I come every month and I see the retirements happening, and I see we're so thankful for our 20 and 25 year, but I know that that means that retirement's going to be coming sometime soon. And then, so you've got that group, and then you've got the group, you know, who have grown up in an economy that they do not think about staying at a place for a long time, right? And so you're looking to go to different places, and that's the norm, the new norm. Well, with that becomes when you have a large organization or a large state agency or a large federal agency or a big company or in the private sector. I just happen to work in government a lot in my professional private life in terms of, you know, that sort of consulting. Is you know, part of this is that with that new sort of ethos and approach is that these organizations don't have a lot of that institutional knowledge, and it gets lost. And you're asking people who are not prepared to make decisions to make decisions. And then that puts the top of the chain constantly having to, rather than thinking big time picture and strategically, having to clean up the messes of things that they did in the organization 15 years ago that they could do at the back of their, you know, with their blindfolded with one hand tied behind their back, but they're having to recreate from scratch something that has gone awry. And that's no fault of anybody other than it's just an institutional problem, right? So to Madam Vice Chairman's point, I would sort of like to see a little more, and I would like to see a specific agenda item on where we really are in our, in terms of what our challenges are from a employee retention / planning standpoint. I know in one organization that I'm involved in, we have really kind of, we've turned from going, and this kind of was what I heard Mike alluding to. We haven't talked about what I'm about to say, but, you know, we're kind of less focused on our employee hiring, although that's critical. You got to make sure you get the right people coming in. But we're more focused on that middle management, making sure that they have the tools to succeed, because we have accepted the reality that the people that they are overseeing are going to be churning. You know, so we have to give them the tools to be great. And it's because if they've decided they've made the choice that they're going to stay with us, then we're going to need to embrace them and give them the little extras to make sure that they have what they need. And that's a part of the plan. That sounds like something I heard you discuss today, but I want to kind of flesh that out too. So those two items, and it could be IT in general, but I think the financial systems in particular are the things that they've, ever since you brought that to my attention, that has been bothering me. And you brought it, I mean, when you're worried, when you're dealing with this big picture, $100 million going around, and your financial software makes it into the PowerPoint, you know how bad it is. You know, that's pretty granular in an organization, but it's showing up here. And it was more than just being an example of something bigger. It's just a problem. But we need to get that done. And whatever, you know, what it costs, we need to address that and not dilly-dally on that. And that's going to require some pain, because, my gosh, making those transitions, we've all been, I think, probably a part of systems when you make a financial transition, and that's going to be checks not showing up for a while, and it's just going to be the worst. But you got to do it, right? So anyway, those are my general thoughts on the strategic plan. For what it's worth, I look forward to an exciting 2026 with the board. I love where we are, and I'm really excited about where we can go. Anybody else? Okay. This is actually going to require a vote. This seems to be a bit of a work in progress, it sounds like, in that you mentioned that throughout 2026, we're going to take little pieces and suss them out and look deeper. Is that what I understood you to say?
So this is the completion of the work from the previous public workshops and meetings that we've had within each of the strategic planning basins. It's been a little while since we've done those. The plan is to get into this cycle, much like our budget cycle, to where we constantly adapt the plan as we're going. So a new plan basically gets done every year and extended out to the next year. And we will update it based on new projects that are discovered, new needs that are done, and use our strategic planning basin meetings that we're going to have as kind of the gathering technique of getting input on those. We'll also do one on our core missions. You hear regularly about our water supply planning, so those are already kind of vetted and I think taken care of through a good process. But the idea is that this is the plan for to adopt for this year, and then we'll go ahead and start working on next year's plan immediately, so that just like we do on the budget, when we pass one budget, they immediately start working on next year's budget. This will be the strategic plan that we want to go with, and then we'll immediately start on the update for next year so that we can gather significant input from not only the board, but from stakeholders throughout the district to include in that update next December.
And the message to staff, we started down this road about 4 or 5 years ago where we've tried to make sure that you're properly recognized, not just in these words, which are genuine and meetings at the beginning of the meeting, but to make sure that your paycheck shows how much we appreciate it. Because words can only go so far when you're trying to pay the bills. And we're very far into doing this on an annual basis, and we have no intention to, as long as God willing, we're able to continue that investment that's in what makes us good and great, and that is the people that work here. So, and with that, we want to. I say it to say the board I think is doing our part to try to show that we're good faith partners in having this discussion back and forth with you about how we make sure that we're doing all the right things to keep the people that we want to have to deliver these core services for the people of the state of Florida, keep our water clean and to make sure that it's there for future generations. So, and that's, so that we'll continue to be employee focused in everything that we do, because we know we're only as good as that at the end of the day. But I want to thank the board again for their commitment to staying the course on that, because that's been important to all of you, and I know that I think it's bearing fruit based on all the data I've seen. And so it's working, but we need to keep it going. All right. With that, there is action required. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe we have public comment.
We have a public comment.
Chris Farrell, representing Audubon, Florida.
Good morning, Chris Farrell, Audubon, Florida. First, I'd like to say I like this competitive water management district idea that's going on. I mean, I always draft your staff first in my water management fantasy league, but maybe we should have power rankings in the water management districts and keep stats, keep everybody on their toes and pushing forward.
Please do. That would be great.
So first, thank you for all the work on this plan, and I like what Mike just said about just continuing to evolve this as you move forward. A couple ideas I'd like to throw out as things I'd like to see discussions of to be a little bit more proactive in helping meet some of the environmental goals for the district. First is water reservations. Moving forward a little bit more with, when you issue a cup, somebody comes in, they tell you the water that they need. And often we're thinking about, what is it, the water you need to be successful? And we're going to give that to you. And we compare it against like MFLs, what the environment needs at a minimum to not experience significant harm. And this is a very different way of thinking about it. So water reservations are thinking about the environment in terms of what does it actually need to thrive and to be healthy. Rather than just protect it from this kind of worst case significant harm scenario. So looking at waterways, wetlands throughout the district, seeing where this might be a tool that could help us ensure that as pressures for growth in water continue over the years, that we don't get in a situation where our systems are just clinging at this lowest possible bar. So that's one idea. The other's kind of related to one of the items you approved earlier, an easement on agricultural lands involving private lands, and especially agricultural lands in Florida. Involving them in this conservation, shared conservation mission is really important. So one thing, I think you've done some little projects with this. I know South Florida especially, here's our competition, South Florida's doing this. Payment for ecological services, working with private landowners to, especially a lot of ranch lands we have throughout the state. They have great environmental values already. There are some small changes that can be made on these properties often to improve the hydrology and, even move up their ecological value. But of course, private landowners aren't going to do that without, some type of incentive. So payment for ecological services, working with private landowners, often it's an efficient way. It's not only tapping lands that you don't have access to, that you can't do public projects on, so you can get access to lands to help with our water conservation goals. Also, it can be very cost efficient. So just wanted to mention those couple items as we're moving forward as things that we can work on together. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I'll give a little 30-second grace on the public comments. Go ahead.
No further on this item.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the strategic plan 26 to 30, which is going to be then subject to potential modifications down the road as we have these further meetings. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. Item 9. Oh, it's not going to...
No presentation.
Nothing's popping up?
No presentation for this.
Usually we have like a graphic that says item 9, which is the Water First North Florida naming situation.
So this is where we were asked to bring back, agenda item for consideration and discussion of potentially changing the name of the Water First North Florida project, with the suggestion being the Springs First project or Springs First Water Initiative. The memo that you have kind of goes through the analysis that staff did as far as, understanding that incorporating springs into the name would bring a higher visibility to that springs aspect of it. But there are other aspects other than just springs recovery. It does have, the idea of supplying sufficient water for the growth of ag, for the growth of our population centers. And I think that's kind of why the group, when all of it was discussed, ended up kind of coalescing around the name that had occurred. And since that time, back in July or so, it's kind of established a brand and recognition and partner alignment JEA took something to their board where they've committed $400 million to the project. We recently got a award from DEP for another $10 million to us to go for the project. There are other entities that are moving forward with their boards with resolutions and things for the project. And so that I think could cause a little bit of confusion along with some of the administrative implications of having to rebrand it. And then the last thing was the idea that when we are developing educational materials about it so that we can, get people to understand the full measure of the project, there is the potential to elevate Springs with some of the taglines and some of the other communication materials that we put together for it when we're going around and showing everybody the plan and why they should take part in it and why they should give us money for it. So that ends up being the recommendation of staff that you can see at the bottom of the memo, is recommending that for you to direct staff to work with Swanee River DEP and participating utilities and partners to develop revised taglines and associated communication materials that more clearly emphasize Springs protection. And then it has some examples like Water First North Florida, protecting springs and water supply for a sustainable tomorrow, with the idea that final tagline language would be developed collaboratively with these partner agencies to ensure consistency across all of the platforms.
All right, any discussion? Yes, sir. Yes, you're recognized.
Sir, a small input, but that Water First North Florida, it sounds like a federal project. And then when you come down to Springs First, that's marketing. That's what we do in our state. Brilliant change, and we need to support that. When you're selling something, the tagline is important. Over here, I wouldn't vote for that if I knew what it was. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. We need to support this.
All right. Any other comments or concerns about the matter?
Does this include Springs or where gators live, and therefore you're saying gators first?
Well, that's how I read it.
I thought so. Okay, I'm supportive with the general
tagline
on Springs
and
first.
everything, tagline may include gators.
We'll work on that. That'll be one of the things we work collaboratively with our partners in Tallahassee to make sure that they're okay.
Well, why don't we just go ahead and move forward? We don't need any
tagline.
particularly have any action on the matter.
Okay.
And when if you could put on the agenda for March to sort of give us an update on where we are on the marketing aspects of this matter and other matters related to this can be discussed at that time too, but particularly this, which is something that we've taken an interest in. That would be great.
Sounds good.
Does that work?
That will work.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to go to item 10, which is our budget update, which is one of the boxes you check as you go through the year. You're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm Missy Lycourt, Budget Director. Today, I will provide you with an overview of the status of the preliminary budget development, including assumptions. As we budget 12 months of the year, we are currently in the first step, the front end of next year's budget. Staff have been collaborating on developing the fiscal year 27 preliminary budget and 5-year CIP since the adoption of the fiscal year 26 budget in September. We received guidance and submission requirements from FDEP. At the January board meeting, we will request your approval to submit the preliminary budget as required by statute on January 15th to our governor, Senate President, Speaker of the House, and the Secretary of FDEP, as well as numerous legislative committees and the governing board of each county within our jurisdiction. Please keep in mind that the preliminary budget will be refined in response to governing board priorities, as well as guidance we receive while we develop the tentative budget. The tentative budget will be further discussed and then presented to you at the July board meeting. where we will request your approval to submit before the August 1st statutory deadline. We then have the opportunity to make final adjustments before we adopt the fiscal year 27 budget in September. Although you approve the budget for adoption, individual projects and activities will still be brought to you for your consideration per district policy. The draft preliminary budget is focused on the district's 4 core missions, using the strategic plan as a starting point. We are continuing the district's implementation plans for the beneficial use of fund balances with an emphasis on regional water resource development projects and meeting our statutory obligations, as well as implementing cost efficiencies by streamlining processes and seeking a sustainable balance between recurring and non-recurring expenses. The draft fiscal year 27 preliminary budget cost efficiencies in operating expenses have resulted in $31.7 million of our operating income funding capital and cooperative projects. Based on guidance from FDEP, state revenue placeholders include $3.2 million in new land acquisition trust fund for land management funding, $13.25 million for new state and legislative appropriations, including our Springs funding, and $11 million in new alternative water supply funding, as well as residual balances from prior appropriations. Overall, we are pleased with the way the draft preliminary budget is coming together. As we move through the budget cycle, we will continue to adjust our external funding based on guidance received, notice of funding awards, as well as the results of the legislative session, and provide you with an update. The draft preliminary budget at $181.2 million is $85.7 million or 32.1% lower than the current budget as a result of staff efforts to make choices based on governing board priorities aligned with the strategic plan and not estimating non-recurring state revenues. This plan does include $28.2 million in placeholders for recurring state revenues, as well as budget for fixed capital and continuing cost share projects. The update I have provided today is a preview of our draft preliminary budget as we assemble the document for your review. We will be requesting your approval to submit the document for the January 15th statutory deadline at the January Governing Board meeting. I am available for any questions you may have or if you would like additional information.
All right, this is a first go at it. Does anybody have any questions at this point in time? And I guess if we address some of those IT issues, that would be in the operating capital outlay?
Yes, sir.
Do we have, and well, we're going to address this next month, but if we could talk about, obviously we're in the 25-26 year right now, but, you know, if we could talk about the budgetary aspects of all that.
We currently have the estimates that were given for it included in this budget for what would be in next year's cost for the upgrades that we're talking about. So it's included. And
Is the timing of it, are we being delayed because we're worried about cash flow, or are we being delayed?
we have money, some monies available in this year's budget that we'll be able to put toward the things that need to go in place. There'll be some, quite a bit of groundwork that's done ahead of it. So
we're on schedule, and we're not, money's always an issue, but it's not the barrier to speed.
Correct.
All right, got it. Excellent. All right. This is just for informational purposes, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
All right, I'll sign the letter and we'll move forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, item 11 is our Black Creek update. I noticed on our hydrologic report that the area, the strip of Florida where this is located is in severe drought, I noticed, which is unfortunate. But we had a lot of rain the last few days, but I know that these are year trends, not, 3-day trends, but go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. Dale Jenkins, Director, Division of Infrastructure and Land Resources. First of all, a very Merry Christmas, and may you all have the best New Year ever coming up. I want to talk a little bit about Black Creek. Got some good news for you today. As Mr. Chairman, if you noticed, it did rain over the weekend. But I first want to direct your attention to this photo before you. This is a drone shot from a week ago, and I want to focus on the media here. So that's cell number 6 being filled with media. And right now it's at about 30% complete. Cell 5 is right behind it. That is complete. All the media's in place. And probably by the time we meet again next month, all the media will be produced and on site at the project site. Okay, moving on, you can see we're getting really close in several areas. The 2 pictures I want to show here are some of the work we've done over the past month. We've completed those erosion improvements at the outfall structure. You can see that in the photo on the upper right and down below. That's the stormwater basin, and that's about to be sodded. Those slopes have been graded, and they're about to be sodded coming up very shortly. We finally got rain this past weekend, as noted, quite a bit actually, and right now so immediately, early yesterday morning, almost before the sun came up, we started moving water from Black Creek and to fill up the storage tank, the ground storage tank at the treatment site, and we also put water in cells 1 through 3. So we got that done, and then early this morning, we started actually moving water through the cells. The first thing we wanted to do that for was to test the repairs we did to some valves on cells 1 through all the cells, but on cells 1 through 3, we wanted to make sure that the repairs we made to those valves were working. They were, so we started moving water towards the outfall early this morning. First of all, more slowly, just to make sure the erosion control features were doing as the improvements we're hoping, and it looks pretty good. And I'm happy to report that right now we're pumping at about 2.5 million gallons per day, and it's going out through the outfall into Black Creek. We have we have surface water monitoring downstream at our first compliance point, and so far that looks good. So it's just all good news, and it's a short but good report. We'll continue to pump water and treat it and put it into Alligator Creek as long as we are above the 25 cubic foot per second threshold. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? That was a good, we don't have to get into details. This was a perfect time, perfect amount of information, and that sounds like a good. And then if you could send the message out that once you get the word out there that we back up. I don't know if anybody knows that from the wire.
No, we will do that.
Little wire reference for those folks. Anyway, water's moving. Water's moving. All right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you know, you know. Okay, public comment, item 12. And let me say that I think there was an individual that put in a card that had it for under governing board comments and executive door. We're going to need to put everything, if you're in those item 19 and item 20 and item 18 is limited to just the board comments and executive director, not for public comment. So if you have a public comment, now's the time to do it. So go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Stan Johnston, and again, he requested item 12 for public comment, and then as you said, had 19 and 20 listed
Well, let's just, Stan, let's just include everything in your presentation now, and we're not going to do 19 and 20, but we look forward to hearing from you.
Right now.
We don't do,
Don't do what?
you look like you have something you're going to show.
What, this?
Yeah,
You don't do that?
right.
You don't do that, okay.
Just, we do the talking
Okay.
stuff though, but that's okay.
Okay, well, how about this? How about that?
I can't tell
Can
you
I
how
have
to
to, do I have
stand.
to take my shirt off?
I'm sorry?
Do I have to take my shirt off? You said you don't allow that, but do you allow this?
Oh, I see where we're going. All right.
Do you allow that?
You got 2:36 left.
Okay,
to
listen.
talk.
Why don't I'm going to request my time begin. You've entered. I feel like you've entered. I'd like to 3 minutes beginning now. May I have that 3 minutes?
Yes.
Please. All right. And change it up to 3 minutes.
Just
okay. All right. Okay. Here goes. All right. I have some good news and some bad news. It happened last month. I didn't know a thing about it. A bunch of people in Titusville didn't know a thing about it. We got numerous homes reporting flooding October, November. Flooding in their homes. And this is the third time that I didn't know a thing about it. I was going to show you this thing right here, a picture, but if you look at it, there's 4 dams. 4 dams downstream of floodplains. So here's what I've done. My presentation is going to be the same as what I've already presented to the city of Titusville, and the same, essentially the same as what I presented to Brevard News, taking about 20 minutes with Brevard News, video and audio. So let's begin. I'm going to ask you to share with you a prayer. You don't have to bow your heads. Lord, I just pray for from justice and truth, and I pray for some wisdom among these people here today, because we're in a bad situation with the city of Titusville, and I've read, and everyone says amen. So here's what's going on. I gave this to you today. That's my card. I read to you about number 5, laws repeatedly violated by Titusville. Okay, anyhow, it says number 1 is water flows. No, number 2, it says dams, where's require survey or what dams flood, FEMA approval, etc. Cities dams flood homes and take property without due process of law. That's our Constitution. These are serious issues and involve St. Johns River Water Management District, who approved these dams. So here's what I said. Here's the question, and the question to you is this: is that how can anyone legally construct a dam immediately downstream of homes already in the one in your floodplain? How can you do that? The answer I got from the city was no answer at all. So I offer you. Here's what I offer you. I'm going to offer you. I offer them $50. I'm going to offer anybody here $1,000 if you can get any PE who's doesn't have dementia, come here and say that Stan Johnson, that's me, I'm wrong about this illegal activity in the city of Titusville. And so I'm asking you, anybody, you get a PE, anybody here, get a PE to put in writing that Stan Johnson is wrong, is what he's saying about answering this question, do it. So what, the city didn't answer it, so what I told the city is this. You didn't answer this question. I want you to understand, this is an admission of guilt. It's an admission of guilt. Not answering this question, not having a PE answer that question. So it's a big deal. And it is an issue of millions and millions of dollars right now. These homes flooded, properties flooded. It's quite obvious. So I'm looking for you guys, please get one of your PEs to answer that question. And here's what I promise you. He answers the question, he disputes me, it's going directly to the Florida Board of Professional Engineers. I'm not asking Mr. Register to answer this question, I'm asking you. And also I gave you this. This also, it's a letter I sent to Mr. Register, and it has to do with this same thing I brought to you. So if there's any questions, I'd like to answer any of your questions.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Please find a PE. I'll give you $1,000. Okay? Thank you.
The next commenter is Miss Ruth Amato.
Hi. Thank you for hearing us earlier on item 5. It's very much appreciated. North Brevard is definitely struggling with their water issues. They go hand in hand with the Atlantic Coastal Ridge. pretty much what's happened there is what's happened in the Everglades. All of our water storage has been restored. And I freely admit I don't understand all the bureaucracy that goes with everything. But if something could be looked at in our area to be able to help us with flooding and recharging our aquifer so we could actually have like fire flow for our area, that would just be amazing, and many residents would be very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mr. Timothy Hodeling.
Good day. I've spoken to you before on my visions on the eelgrass situation, the submerged aquatic vegetation, the underwater gardens of the St. Johns River, and how y'all are faced with basically from Jacksonville to Astor with eutrophic river, with dead river with no eelgrass. There's a few people that are fighting really hard. You know, my opinion, O'Reilly Timms, he walks on water. Dan Colderman the same way with Fish and Wildlife. I came with a different approach. But listening to the 5-year plan, I was sort of like, think the leadoff thing should have been fix the St. Johns River. Develop a plan, have all of your experts focus on identification. That piece of paper you're looking is the front page of a 1992 Bassmaster magazine. It was an interview, 12-page layout on the status of the environment of Florida and how you have to like keep the Yankees away and all of those sort of things. Came from a book that Leroy Wright had written talking about how he had interacted with the water management district and worked so hard. He and his efforts were part of the effort, trickle down as I understand it, with the legislature. Forced, basically caused all of the purchases of all the muck farms around Lake Palatka, which is a real fascinating success story that y'all are rightfully proud of. But anyhow, I tried to get this to you, but your IT guys wouldn't let me electronically send it to you. It's a real interesting story. The thing that shocked me is you could put 1992 today and put it with today, and I don't know there's all that much difference. You've been working pretty much about trying to clean up the river so that we have eelgrass and the bass, supporting the bass fishing and all of that. I do believe it needs just a little bit better place in the 5-year plan. Mr. Marzolf over there was kind enough to do a roundtable. You've got the beginnings of it, where he brought in a whole bunch of agencies and nonprofits, not me included. And you know where the status is. You're at that step. Go a little bit further if you could. Make it a big deal.
Okay. Hold on.
Yes.
We'll wait until governing board comments. All right. All right. Thank you.
Nothing further.
All right. So there's all the public comment cards? Great. All right. We're going to move to item 18, pending litigation.
Good
Ms.
afternoon.
Preston?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I've got updates, brief updates today. The first is a request for extension of time to file a petition. This is regarding a statutory determination about tolling and permit extension for an environmental resource permit under various hurricane emergency orders. That's under consideration. The next two updates are resolutions. The first is Amber Boback versus Sun State Petrol 1 LLC, Circle K Stores Incorporated, and the district. This was a third-party challenge to an environmental resource permit for a stormwater management system in Volusia County. After a division of administrative hearings, final hearing, and a recommended order to issue the permit, the district entered a final order and issued the permit November 19th. The next resolution is Lake County versus HG Troon LLC in the district. This was a challenge to an environmental resource permit that authorizes a stormwater management system in Lake County. The permittee and petitioner reached a settlement, and that petition has been dismissed. So this concludes my report.
Any questions for the firm? All right. Now we're going to go to governing board comments. Ryan, thank you for your patience. What's on your mind?
No problem. Just give me a long leash here because I got a couple of things. So,
of course.
First is Mr. Precht. When we review these materials, you usually do it like a week before the meeting. That's when I reviewed these materials, and it shows there in the lower St. John's submerged aquatic vegetation. So I literally thought of you when I read that a week ago. I literally thought of you, and so when you coming up and saying that we're not addressing it, I disagree. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I want to talk about is agenda item number 5. And I think I froze there when we were doing that. Rob was looking for a vote, and I appreciate the chairman needs to keep the meeting moving, so he has to table it and go. We come off of having some public speakers, and I wish they were still here. I think they both left. I wanted them to hear this. But, you read this stuff like a week ago, and you're trying to remember all the details of it. And, to recall that stuff. I'm a farmer / agribusinessman, C's get degrees. I'm not lawyers, and I'm not as smart as some of the folks here, so my mind isn't as quick. I don't retain as much. But I look back at the notes as we move past it, and on that particular agenda item, those people have already been approved for like 5 acres of development on wetlands. So what they've proposed is, let's go ahead and give us the uplands. We'll return the wetlands. And so, this gets back to the staff and the staff making the recommendation on what's environmentally appropriate. And I know I'm rambling here, but Mike called and said, hey, Ryan, just getting ready for the meeting. I want to address a few things. We're not going to call it the Springs first. I said, dang, but no, I get it. And, he said, you got any other issues? And I said, well, the one that I feel like I chime in on the most is this changing of conservation easements. It's probably because I'm farthest from it, I think, in a lot of ways. And I said, but the truth is, if you guys as a staff say that it's appropriate, who am I to argue that? You're the experts, not me. And I would say the same thing for the general public that gets up here and tries to say something like some of what they said. Like, they're not the experts. We've got people their entire career is based on determining environmental sensitivity of land and protecting it. Like, if we don't rely on our experts to make these decisions, who are we relying on? I sure don't want the general public to tell me what the environmentally sensitive is, and that's no disrespect to them. They're just not experts, and these folks are. So I want to go back to item 5 if it's not too late. I want to go ahead and make a motion that we approve that, because I feel like the staff has done a good job identifying that that's a good thing to do. And I know I'm talking a lot. One last thought. I think Cole and Doug made great points about number 6. Number 6 was a slam dunk. I mean, it wasn't even close. So if you're someone in the future that wants to go for one of these, make it a slam dunk, and then you don't even have to worry about the board having to make some kind of decision. Anyway, appreciate everyone's patience. I know that was a lot.
Yeah, no problem. If it's okay, Mr. Atwood, because I went ahead and put it on next agenda item, if we could just consider it, if you want to make the motion in January, unless it's something that you feel. Are you sure? Okay, let's do that if you don't mind. And I got a sense from my colleagues that perhaps there was some concern, and I will say that I don't disagree with them, that I wouldn't mind seeing the benefit of the bargain be a little more in favor of the district on that one. But I'm one vote. All right. That being said, What I would like to do is, if we could, between now and the next meeting, I was going to ask our vice chairman on that particular item. This is what I was going to say before Ryan said what he said, to get with Mike, just so that we have somebody from the board that is also involved, not to sit on your shoulder or anything like that, Mike, but just to make sure that we don't get in a situation again where we look up and this individual is being delayed over and over again unnecessarily. All right? I mean, if it's not to be, it's not to be. But I would feel more comfortable when situations like that, when there isn't a consensus, like the slam dunk, that, as you appropriately described it on the other one, when it's not a slam dunk for whatever reason, that that having a board member, because we can't talk to each other, between now and then, I think is not a bad idea, if you don't mind.
Oh, not at all.
Okay, that would be, thank you, Madam Vice Chairman. And then we're going to put this on the next agenda, and we'll see how it lands, and we'll kind of handle it like that, and go from there. Does anybody have any objection to handling that in that manner? All right, great, thank you. Yes, sir. You have comments?
Several comments today, so.
Great, excellent. Well, we look forward to them.
First, I'd just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas season. As we talked about the strategic plan, you had mentioned biosolids, and I know it's not something we here regulate, but it is a concern on what they do and how they affect our waters. And I think something we've not necessarily maybe we have, I haven't heard it, exactly what is in the biosolids that can be affecting our water, such as PFAS and some heavy metal issues. I don't know if those should be concerns, but I think we should look at it. We measure it all the time for, the nutrient values, the nitrogen and the phosphorus, but I'd like to maybe see a little bit more on exactly how is it affecting our waters in other ways. 2 years ago, we had a vote on the hydrilla eradication in Lake Apopka. I voted for it. It was a tough vote for me because we were going up against the request not to go forward with it from the sporting community, and particularly the duck hunters. I would like to say that I am hearing from the duck hunters in the area that Lake Apopka has been very good duck hunting this year, and they're very appreciative of the work we've done with the STA that we've now opened up for duck hunting. So I think that's a positive. It was like ripping off a Band-Aid. It needed to be done, but I really hated to kind of go against them at the time. But it was necessary, and I think it was a net positive at the end. As it comes to lagoon restoration, I think the project that we talked about in item number 7, I think we ought to be looking at that, extensively. And when we do bring it back next month, I think we have a quick conversation on how reconnecting all of those impoundments in the lagoon, particularly how it affects, the fishing, and those impoundments really have the opportunity to be great nurseries for the game fish within the lagoon system and all the feeder fish and everything else. But I don't know that everybody quite understands, the importance of reconnecting those, and I think that's important. And then on to the number, I guess it's number 5 that Ryan just discussed. I don't know why at the moment, with public comment, and I sensed it within the board that there was some question, but I'll tell you, when I had read Mr. Prather's memo on it, it was well outlined, and it looked like a net gain for us ecologically, conservation-wise. When it does come back, I would just recommend maybe a little reminder of some of those things that were in the memo, because I think it was well briefed. Thank you. That's my comments.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay. I want to I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I am very, very thankful this holiday season for all of you. My life is greatly enriched by this experience of being able to be a part of this organization. So thank you all. And to my board members, to my fellow board members, thank you also for just your continued excellent work and dedication to this effort. Thank you very much. Item 20 is Executive Director's Report and Calendar.
Thank you. You can go ahead and go to the first slide. On November 13th, the district partnered with the City of Orlando to host the 11th Annual Upper St. Johns River Basin Consortium at the city's new Wetland Education Center. A total of 99 participants joined in person or online to hear updates on recent projects and research in the Upper St. Johns River Basin. Next slide. I want to say a big congratulations to Deirdre Irwin, our kind of water conservation czar that we have here at the district. She received a national award and won the Ann Hunter Wellborn Circle of Excellence Award, which honors individuals, companies, and organizations that show strong leadership in environmental stewardship, water conservation, and community-focused sustainability. So congratulations to Deirdre Irwin, one of our water conservation coordinators. And next is the blank slide, where we have, I wanted to go ahead and say a big thank you to Governor DeSantis and to the Department of Environmental Protection. Chris Peterson was able to join me at a press conference with the governor last week where he announced awards for alternative water supply grants and Springs grants. And the district was recipient of a $15 million grant toward our Taylor Creek Reservoir project and a $10 million grant toward the Water First North Florida project and about a $750,000 grant toward our abandoned artesian well plugging program. So I think there's recognition that, as Mr. Bernique said, that we can get things done. And I'm very appreciative of these awards and the trust it shows in our district to accomplish the purposes. Calendar. Got some holidays coming up. We got for Christmas, December 25th and 26th. That's Thursday and Friday of that week. And then January 1st and 2nd. I believe that's Thursday and Friday of that week also. And then our governing board meeting is on January 13th. Thank you again also to Governor DeSantis and the chair for agreeing to extend those 2 additional holidays there around Christmas and New Year's that he did for state employees. And that concludes my report.
All right. That is the last item on the agenda. Is there anything else to come before the board today?
At some point, we need a field trip for the Blackwater Creek project.
Yes.
We are, and agreed. What he said was at some point we want to go to the Black Creek project. What the only, in my mind, for what it's worth, I wanted to get the thing flowing out, and it's starting now. Probably would like to stack a couple of months on that to get it, make sure all the media is down so we can see it fully operational. I just, it's the logistics of us all going out there is such that I thought maybe it would be best. I didn't think it would take this long. The drought got us, but was having it fully operational. You know what I mean? For us all to see it. What's that?
A beautiful spring day, not in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, we can't guarantee that, but we can guarantee that it'll be a day when it's fully operational, right? Yeah, I agree. I can't wait to join everybody out there. It's going to be exciting, and it's just a fascinating endeavor. Great. A lot to be thankful for, don't we? Absolutely. All right. Seeing nothing else coming before the board today, this meeting is adjourned.
And don't everybody forget the luncheon out at the pavilion.